Hey folks, Sharky here. When it comes to the greatest books of all time, people can debate for ages. You have the works of Agatha Christie, H.P. Lovecraft, J.R.R. Tolkien, J.K. Rowling, Rochelle Mead, the list goes on, so it's really hard to pick a book that you can use to set the high bar. The low bar, however, is a completely different matter. After a bit of searching, a title kept popping up as one of the most pretentious, horribly written books of the new decade. It received reviews ranging from 1 to 2 stars and seems to be generally hated by anyone who knows how to read. But is this novel as bad as everyone claims it to be? Well, I did mention setting the low bar, didn't I? Yeah, anyway, welcome to Dead Trees, and this is R. Malone's Crimson Rose. We see our first red flag on page 2, where the publisher claims absolutely no responsibility for what you're about to read, like they were about to crucify the Messiah. If you're reading along, now would be a good time to get rid of all the sharp objects in your vicinity. We see a prologue on page 9, which establishes that we're in Missouri. To be specific, the second paragraph states, the town was named Huston, similar to the city in Texas and pronounced the same. Huston? What the hell is Huston? Oh, she means Houston, okay. I'm sure General Zod will appreciate the clarification. We soon meet our protagonist, named Rose, and she meets a mysterious stranger with blonde hair and muscular arms. And if you missed the fact that he had blonde hair and muscular arms, don't worry. She will remind you of this every chance she gets. The mysterious stranger is named Stefan Hansen, and he is a vampire. And his fashion sense is described on page 20. While dressed furtively in a flowing obsidian trench coat, he surreptitiously snaked towards an extensive row of vintage shops on the opposite side of the street. Well, to her credit, she does seem to know how to use a thesaurus. Also, he's apparently German, and after stalking her for a bit, proves to be an aggressive kisser. To be specific, page 35 states, Stefan lunged forward and deeply crushed hers beneath his during a new level of brutality. You know, I am yet to meet a girl that has kisses like a trash compactor as one of her turn-ons. So Stefan does what most madly in love German vampires do. He kidnaps her to what is technically his castle. While captive, she sees an old photograph and makes a startling realization on page 62. You're not just a vampire, you're a Nazi! A Nazi vampire! You do know that Buffy speak only works when you're being intentionally funny, right? Eventually, this little setup results in her being sexually assaulted at page 65. Did I say sexual assault? I'm sorry. According to the author, it's actually a forced seduction, which, much like surprise sex, will in no way, shape, or form save you in court. Rose, however, seems to be the forgiving kind as they end up having consensual sex by page 83. We're not even at the halfway point yet. Not only are they having sex, they're also engaging in a bit of dirty talk. Thus saith Stefan on page 84, tell me how badly you want me, he goaded with a suggestive smile. His eyes burn into her like lasers. So are they role-playing as the X-Men and he's Cyclops? Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, that's not fair. Different authors have very different takes on the vampire mythos. Anne Rice had the classic vampires which had an extreme irritation to sunlight and religious symbols. Stephanie Meyer's vampires sparkled in sunlight. R. Malone's vampires have frickin' laser beams attached to their foreheads. So now that they're officially dating, kind of, we learn Stefan's backstory. Apparently, him being German became a bit of a problem as his girlfriend was Jewish, and the Nazis just introduced the Nuremberg laws which, among other things, made getting married to, or just having sex with, Jews illegal. They tried to stay hidden for a while, but eventually she had to flee the country. But not before Stefan gives her a passionate farewell kiss. Specifically, according to page 101, Stefan lunged forward and invaded her lips with the ferocity to match the Nazis' invasion of Germany. Okay, 1 second. Just some clarification here. Were you referring to the Machtergreifung, which was the Nazi takeover of the Weimar Republic? Or were you referring to the Gleichschaltung, where the Nazis established complete political control of Germany by either intimidation or outright murder? Or was it Kristallnacht, which resulted in the destruction of Jewish homes, places of worship, as well as the deaths of tens of thousands of Jews? I'm only asking because these are the kinds of things that a kiss should never be compared to. Sadly, we're still not at the halfway mark, so let's keep going. After a while, Stefan ends up joining the Nazis in the hope that he'd be reunited with his girlfriend, which he did. Then it turned out that she was assigned to a Sonderkommando group at Konzentrationslager Dachau, where he's forced to euthanize her after digging her own grave. You know, if you're going to incorporate the Holocaust into your story, you better make sure you're respectful to the victims, and it better be a big part of your entire plot. But no, it turns out that Malone only went with this setup so that on page 111, she could blame Stefan's vampirism on science experiments by Dr. Hans Wolf? Now, at this point in time, there were only two prominent Hans Wolfs. There was Hans Freiherr Wolf, who was in the Wehrmacht, and there was the Hans Wolf who was in Heidelberg University. She might be talking about Dr. Hans Wolf, who invented ozone therapy, and as far as we know, he never existed. This boggles my mind because she actually mentions Josef Mengele in page 104. I mean, sure, it would have been cliche to blame him, but at least that would have made slightly more sense. So anyway, World War II ends and Stefan left Germany and settled into North America, specifically Missouri. Now, if you're a German vampire and you move to the US during the tail end of World War II, you'd want to be a little discreet. Let's see how Stefan handles this one. On page 114, it states that Stefan, despite being accustomed to American culture, never forgot his Germanic roots. Fair enough. Wait, what's this? More than 50 years later, through which his feeding frenzy had killed enough people to rival the mass murders of the Not that this author isn't driving me insane yet, because believe me, she is. Let's analyze that statement real quick. According to Malone, he'd been living in a small town in Missouri, miles away from St. Louis. That leaves us with Jefferson County, Franklin County, and St. Charles County. Note that I'm looking at the entire county, not a specific town. It'll make sense in a second. You know what? Let's add the county that Houston, Missouri is in. Texas County. Now let's look at the most recent population count, which is far more than it was in the last 50 years, but I'm feeling generous. St. Charles County has 360,485. Jefferson County has 218,733. Franklin County has 101,492. And Texas County has 24,598. Everybody get that? Good. Now, at a very minimal estimate, the Holocaust killed 10,227,500 people. If he were to rival that number over 50 years, he'd need to have an annual murder count of 204,550. Now look at the town numbers. If he resided in any one of these places over 50 years, how did no one notice all the bloodless corpses lying around? Trivializing the Holocaust just to give your lead male a high kill count is horrible enough, but it also doesn't make any sense in terms of storyline or basic math. A few pages later, Rose hears from one of the people in Stefan's Castle of Doom that he may have killed her previous husband. Obviously, this puts a bit of a strain on the relationship, resulting in the events of page 131, where he breaks down in front of her, resulting in this brilliant observation. Rose had no idea that he could display tears and essentially cry. History, math, human decency. We can now add basic human biology to the list of things that Malone spectacularly fails at. Stefan's dramatic interpretation of an entire Dashboard Confessional album seems to make Rose hate him a little less. Until 34 pages later, where she finds out that Stefan sexually assaulted her in the past while pretending to be her then-alive husband. So now that's 2 counts of forced seduction on Stefan. How does Rose react to this terrifyingly horrible betrayal of trust? On page 170, she says, "Just tell me you're sorry for the things that you've done." You know, there's being forgiving and there's being a moron. This is being a moron. Now, I'm not gonna spoil the rest of the book for you, mostly because you'll see everything that's going to happen once you hit page 119. Just know that once you're at 240, have a punching bag ready because you're going to want to punch something. It's not even the whole page, just one line. One incredibly dumb, stupid line that will make you want to hurt things. The dialogue is horrible. The plot is generic to the point that you'll see what's happening from at least 10 parsecs away. And it trivializes the Holocaust, one of the most horrible chapters in human history, to weakly justify the vampire origin story. It is beyond disrespectful to those who suffered and died during these atrocities, and establishes Malone as a horrible writer and a disgusting human being. Trees died for this book. It is the most horrible piece of literature that I've read in recent years, and, well, it is quite frankly the perfect way to set the low bar. If you find any book that's suckier than this, I pity you. Anyway, this has been Sharky. Avoid this book at all costs, and you've been watching Dead Trees.